Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Welcome to this week. Venus is a sassy bitch this week. She takes center stage. Of course she does, because she's in Leo now. So hold on to your panties and ignite your own Venusian fire this week is my best advice. But first, let's take a little backtrack into last week. There was so much astrology. There was so much availability of astrology, and wondering, just taking a little review of how that felt for you. Where does it feel most ignited in your body currently? We had that big Jupiter-Venus conjunction, which was good tidings, right? I started last week being like, I love this astrology. Love it, love it, love it. And did I love last week? No, I really didn't. It was hard. I had such a hard week. And it is the reminder that Jupiter expands everything. And when I went and looked at where that conjunction was in my chart, it was in the 8th house of Scorpio shadow work. So the shadows were dancing across every last little part of me. And it was hard. It was an integration into the end of the school year. It was an integration into being a full-time mom again. It was an integration into, being in different schedule with my partner. It was a week of just anything goes. And with Jupiter and Venus there, it was expansive and big. And so the unknown really came and bit me in the face. And I had this huge intention for that day of, submitting an application for something. And it was my mom's death day. So I was like, oh my God, it's going to be so rich. But really, it was just so hard. And that is the thing that I warned about at the beginning of last week's podcast, is any kind of really good astrology that's on the horizon, whether it's good or not, is up for grabs, because even good astrology can affect you in really hard ways. I'm going to say that again. Even really good astrology can affect you in really hard, seemingly bad ways. So was that day hard? Yeah. I woke up thinking I was going to be like mind melded with my partner, and we were going to be lovey-dovey, and the kids were going to be snuggly, and it was my mom's death day, so it feels special. And instead, it was sharp. We all got in little tiffy fights. It was dumb. We didn't resolve it. It continued all day. It was just one of those very hard to connect days. And it triggered all of the things inside of me that are insecure and jacked. So that's what I got to experience. However, at the end of that day, I went and I saw my owl on my mom's death day, trying so hard all the month of May to manifest this owl that never came. My cousin said, hey, you did too manifest it. There's this owl that's been hanging out. And so I've been visiting that spot, trying to see that owl. And nope, wasn't there. Felt totally abandoned by the universe. And then after dinner, I cheersed my mom. I saw a feather on my car, and I was like, I'm going to go check that spot one more time. And I did, and there it was. And so is that powerful, magical, brilliant? Yeah, that's dope. Did it change the circumstances of all the snippy, ugly, dirty? No, it was still there. So it was a mixed bag. And then we ended the week yesterday with a new moon in Gemini. And I love a new moon in Gemini because no matter how hard things are, no matter how sticky things are, Gemini is mutable energy. It wants to move. It wants to shape shift. It is curious. And so it was much easier to wade through the hard energy just by being curious. So that's how we ended the week. So now we move into this. The moon is fresh. It was a new moon. Now we start this building process, and whatever you have been feeling stuck in, wanting to seed, wanting to plant and grow, is now ready to be watered. So how are you going to water the week? Kind of literally, you guys, because here in Southern Oregon, it's going to be like in the 90s. It's going to be hot. It's going to be annoying. I don't like really hot weather. I'm very white and I sweat and I get very red. So what is the medicine? What is the medicine to that stuff? It's really hot. I don't like it. Venus is here. Venus is making moves. Venus is loud in Leo. Venus today, Monday, is sextiling Uranus. So Venus wants to make progress through being seen. So do you know what I did? I felt stuck. I was irritated that it's going to be hot today. So I went to hot yoga. Do I love hot yoga? No, I don't like sweating. I don't like being sticky. I don't like working out. I'm a Libra. I'm very Venusian. I like lovely things. And my body tends to be the sector of where I store all of my pain. So, anything that gets me in my body can feel triggering and painful. So, but Venus is here making this beautiful sextile to Uranus saying, but if you engage, if you try to change your current circumstance, that's how you get into the soup of what actually needs to move. And so I actually literally went to move in heat. I don't like the heat. I am resistant to the heat. So I surrendered to the heat this morning. Did I enjoy it? Well, no. I didn't. I got sweaty. I got red. I still feel sweaty. I need a shower, but I also need to make a podcast. So podcast comes before shower. You're welcome. Anyway, I did the very thing that I was resisting. And in going into the heat, I feel as though I'll be able to handle the heat better. And that is what Venus is trying to talk to us about this week. It is when we face the fire. It is when instead of saying, I don't like that, I'm going to resist it, that instead we say, I don't like that, I'm going to go in it. I'm going to press into that part of myself that says, I don't like it. Because if you don't like something, if you don't like someone currently, if you are in struggle with something, and the initial response is, I don't like it, so here is some homework. Write down, I don't like, and see what comes up. I don't like. What don't you like right now? What is kind of sucky? Because I think optimists and people that look on the sunny side of the street aren't denying reality necessarily. They aren't saying that something isn't unpleasant. They're just saying that there is always a lightness to everything around us. And it is about our perspective towards it that moves us around it, through it, under it, whatever. So what is the thing you don't like right now? And with all of this Venus in the sky, all of this lovely Venus work availability to us, it opens up our heart. And it being in Leo, Leo's ruled by the sun. So it's this big, bright sector of, cool, let's talk about what we don't like so we can infuse it with Venusian energy, beauty, and love. I don't like being hot, but going into hot yoga is a way to transmute the heat. It exercises me. It releases tension in my body. It sweats out all of the stuff that has been lingering inside of me so that when the weather gets hot later today, I can deal with it better because I've already ignited the fire inside myself first. So, what is the thing you don't like right now? Is it a person, place, thing? And whatever it is, how do you transmute it? And now I don't have the solution for you because I don't know what you're not liking right now, but I can give examples. If you don't like that your house is messy, that's a very simple fix, alas. It's not always the fun answer. It's you roll up your sleeves and you start cleaning the one spot that annoys you the most. Because there is a thing about cleaning. Once you get into a flurry, you kind of start getting crazy, obsessive with it, and then before you know it, the house is sparkly new. That doesn't mean your house has to be sparkly new. It just means you're being honest with the fact that you don't like that the house is messy. So do something about it, and Venus rewards us for that. I believe I will be able to tolerate the heat better today because I pushed it through my body this morning. Instead of just letting the thing I don't want affect me, I affect it first. I tackle it first. I take responsibility for the not liking it first. And then what grows and comes of that gets to be a whole new relationship with the thing that I don't like. So that's Monday. Tuesday, Venus is trining positive aspect Neptune. So Venus again, love, beauty, poetry, creativity, all of the things that are heart-opening, heart-soothing, being in Leo, really out in the open, making a positive aspect to Neptune, our dream space. So I always say, if you're the type of person who remembers their dreams, this week's dreamy dreams are going to be extra dreamy. This girl's been having like loads of tactile dreams of like touching, of loving, of kissing, of very like physical dreams. And to me, that represents very Venus in Leo. And now that I see this week that it's also trining Neptune, it makes loads of sense, because what my heart is craving right now is physical connection, is connection to my body, is connection to other people's bodies, is snuggles, kisses, deep eye contact, give it all. Oh boy. That's exciting. And it is. And it's really how I want to play with that. So in this week, with Venus making a positive aspect to our dream space, you can take it literal by listening to your dreams, or you can freaking manifest some dreams right now and make them pretty. How do you make what you want pretty? Just like how do we take what we don't like and transmute it and work through it? Now, how do we take what we do like and infuse it? Instead of transmuting, we're infusing. So I love the notion and the idea when I close my eyes and think about this kind of astrology, is it's like our blood flow. You know, it's like our heart pumping the blood through our body. And if our body isn't operating in a homeostatic way, in a neutral way, we're gonna have blockages. And so this week, I see it as a very heart pumping week. Where is information pumping through you, and where does it get stopped up? You can take that literally by paying more attention to your body, or you can take it more philosophically by paying attention to the things that just seem to work in your day-to-day life, things that just seem to work in your heart right now. Those are the things that are creating flow. And those are the things we want more of, and things we want to do more consciously. Those are the things we want to infuse. And now we also then work with that energy. What are the things we want to transmute? What are the things we want to move out of our body? Where is the stuck energy? That has been a long conversation over the last few weeks, because there's been so much stuck crap. So I love this reference in thinking about, how do we flow spiritually? How do we flow physically? We all need to be moving our bodies. We all need to be moving our consciousness. We all need to be moving our hearts and our feelings. Now, how that happens for each person, you individually, is going to look very different than how I'm going to choose to ignite and infuse and transmute. This is our work. This is our work as solitary humans, is that there is no one size fits all weekly guide for how to go about navigating good astrology or bad astrology. Maybe you had the best week of your life last week because of that Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Maybe it was amazing. It was not amazing for me. It was awful. And were there really expansive, amazing things for me to reflect on this week? Yes. I feel that in dealing with last week, I am more prepared, more ready to accept this week. So, blood flow. Where are you flowing? Is it in righteous action with what you are wanting? And if not, if there's a lot of I don't likes going on this week, how are you working with those I don't likes to get back to this place of beauty, of even the worst day has a beautiful moment in it, and can you find it kind of mentality? So then Wednesday, Venus is still Venusing. Yes, she is. She opposes Pluto. Oh my God. Okay. So we're on like kind of this Venus journey this week. We start out with Venus wanting to make a change. We start out with what don't we like, and how do we get that out to infuse more of what we do like. And then Venus gives us a little reward with Neptune, saying we are more capable of being aware of our dream space, of knowing better how to accomplish what we want, because we have a deeper connection with it. Okay. And then Wednesday midweek, Venus makes a harder opposition. So it's in its opposite way with Pluto, who is retrograde. So it is transformative, and sometimes we resist transformation. And in these two sectors, it's Aquarius and Leo. So it's ego body versus community minded. So in the world, the world isn't being very community minded these days. It's very Leo heavy. It's very egoic based. And what this astrology is asking is, don't you see when we bring the two to center, how there's room for both, how you can grow individually by also accepting what's going on globally in certain ways, by also reaching out to your community, reaching out to people who are near you, reaching out to your chosen vibes. And what if we all came together in our own strong presence, high road Leo, to affect change? So I love this week in a sense of being very community minded, being very other oriented. Venus is here, and with it opposing Aquarius, the change needs to be in how we're relating, in the right and wrong sectors of our lives, in that when you're so right and I'm so wrong and vice versa come into the conversation, then there's no room for paradox. There's no room for curiosity. There's no room for that flow. And coming off a Gemini new moon, we need curiosity when we're approaching things that we don't understand, we don't like, or we want to change. Because if you're just going to do it the same way you've always been doing it, you're probably going to render very similar results to what and where you are at right now currently. So when I see a hard opposition, when I see Venus saying, I have all these things I want to do, I am in Leo, I am out there, I want to be seen, I want to be noticed. But then the opposition is, but what do you want to be noticed for? But what? But what are you trying to do? And is it valuable? Is it worthwhile? Is it feeding you or is it draining you? And then I think of that flow. I think of our blood meridians. I think of how it is we ignite inside of ourselves the curiosity to go deeply into what is stopped up inside of us right now. And instead of judging it, or by judging it, by saying, I don't like it, we are able to incite and inflect change within it. That's the goal this week. Venus does it in a much nicer way than, say, if Mars was doing all of this. If Mars was doing all this, we would all be fighting. And maybe we still will, because Venusian energy is very much about other. It is very relationship oriented, and it is very much about our comfort and our joy and our love. And when it's being triggered over and over and over again, and bitch is in Leo, so she's loud, sorry Leos, but you can be, and dramatic when it is not being used for the better good, then issues can arise. And I want you this week to be okay with that, to be okay with the fact that your tissues got issues. If you are frustrated about something, instead of saying that's a me problem or this is just how it is, igniting the very last bits of this Gemini energy to get very curious about it, because we're about to move out of Gemini season. This is our last few days of infusing ourselves with communication, with new ideas, with thoughts, with how we want to be thinking. And the only way we change how we want to be thinking is by being curious. But it doesn't work if then we're going to shit all over ourselves and be all judgy about it. There is a neutrality that has to come this week to allow for this change to happen. Because if you look at something inside yourself or inside someone else and you say, I don't like it, if you can't get neutral or honest or accountable about why you don't like it, then it's really going to start to get loud. It's really going to start to get creatively dominating of your space. And so it's like when I think of the witches of Eastwick, when he was doing bad magic on them and they laughed, and that it was through laughing that the energy dispersed. And that's what it is. It's like taking it into consciousness and then neutralizing it, because then you can see it from, I dare say, a vantage point that you aren't attached to. If you are attached to something, then you are going to put all kinds of preconceived notions on it. So what's going to come up a lot with Venus being in major play this week is a lot of attachment style living, a lot of attachment-based realities. And it gets drawn up, and rather than judging it, and rather than necessarily hating it, you're calling it out that you don't like it, that it's uncomfortable, and then you're allowing it to move. Because they say we can't fix problems unless we're aware of the problem first. I think this is a really hard concept to live in everyday life culture, because there are a lot of things that we don't like that we really just have to do to be in this world. A bitch gotta work. You gotta clean. You have to, support your relationships. You have to fill the cup of your partner. You have to do those things. Now, if you're saying, I don't like it, then how are you filling that cup? I bet you're filling it in a pretty half-assed way. I bet you're doing bare minimum shit. And that's okay. No judgment here. But what do you think about where you're half-assing it right now? Because Venus wants to go in with its whole heart right now. And we got to do the work. We got to be willing to call out what it is we're not liking, but then be able to neutralize it in a way that we can shift it because we notice what's truly wrong about it. Blood flow works that way too. If you lay the same way at night every single night, eventually there's going to be a part of your body that's going to get stopped up. So how do you fix that? You change positions. At least once during the night. Just try. It's really hard. I'm a really specific sleeper. I have a whole routine-based reality in how I fall asleep. And if I don't do something about it, then I wake up very stuck and my hands fall asleep in the night and my feet fall asleep. So energetically, let's not fall asleep at the wheel here. Let's keep doing the work, because by midweek, Venus opposing Pluto is really going to ask us, what are you willing to change and transform through? What are you willing to move? Friday, we have a fairly big change occurring. Chiron, which is our original wound, is moving into Taurus. And now that affects a lot of people in my age group because, Taurus is slow moving. And so it's more of a generational planet, meaning that there are a lot of people that are affected because a lot of people in their, mid 40s to 50s have a Chiron in Taurus. So a lot of these people are going to be experiencing a chironic return. What does that mean? Well, Chiron's the unhealable wound, isn't that? So it is up for review. What is the core wound that you have is up for review. For those people in their mid 40s to almost 50, it's going to be really up because their Chiron's in Taurus. If yours isn't, then what Taurus represents is financial stability, security, materialism, nourishment, the human body. So it's all going to be up. How are you taking care of yourself? Literally, both financially, physically, spiritually, and otherwise, because Taurus is all about safety. So the wound is, what happens when I lose my safety? The wound is, maybe I will never be fully resourced. The wound is, maybe I can't depend on anybody to help me or take care of me. So there's a lot of layers to that, and people that have a Chiron in Taurus, that's going to be where they fight from. So no matter what, if the fight is about what movie you're going to pick tonight, if they say something that feels conditional or feels like they're taking away that person's security, they're going to get lit. Yeah, they are. They're going to disappear. They're the types that need to go into their little hovels, their little corners, their little dark spaces, and think about that and think about that fear state of not being truly supported or nourished or taken care of. So it's kind of a hard thing for America to be going through right now, only when I think of how jacked we are financially as a country. Chiron moving into Taurus is like, the wound of stability, the wound of resources, the wound of materialism. And I think that this country has gone real left on materialism. And what are the things that you would be willing to give up in order to have more stability? What are the things you're willing to give up in order to have more stability? And to those mid 40-year-olds, that's going to come up like a freight train. That's going to be a really confronting thing to ask themselves. And they're going to have to answer that question. But we're just starting, so don't worry. There's a lot of work to do here. But that initial Friday with Chiron moving into that sign, there's going to be all kinds of questions that come up around how we are nourishing ourselves. So be on the lookout. And then Sunday is solstice, you guys. Happy solstice. It is a time to celebrate. It is a time to see how far we've come. It is the highest the sun's going to be in the sky in our hemisphere, and the sun then moves into Cancer. So we say goodbye to this very cerebral, very curious, very mutable Gemini, and we move into this very cardinal, very powerful, very emotional Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. Cancer works, wheels, and deals in nourishment. So I love that as this Chiron is moving into Taurus, an earth sign, we have the sun supporting it in Cancer, a water sign, to nourish, water, and help this wound grow into some sort of healing. So I kind of love this aspect in that way. I love that the summer solstice is telling us that when we get honest about how we really feel, not what we think, because Gemini has spent a lot of time talking to us about what we think. Now, when we get down to the root of how we really feel, that's when we can really start some shit. Because, Cancer gets a bad rap for being overly emotional, for being overly sensitive, for being wrapped up in emotion. But we mustn't forget that Cancer is a cardinal sign. It starts shit, all right? It is the mother, for God's sakes. It is the thing that creates babies. It is the proverbial mother in us all. And that's not feminine necessarily. I mean, it is. It's yin energy in that way, but it is creative. It is source. It is powerful. It has the ability to do something new that can support and nurture every other part of your life. So, as we're doing the beginning of the week homework, what don't I like? And what am I going to do about it? We get to end the week with what supports me best. Because Chiron on Friday is going to bring up all of these security issues, but then the solstice and the sun moving into Cancer is going to say, how would you like to be nourished right now? How best can we support that nourishment or that lack of nourishment inside of you? So, it's a week where we are extremely held to ask very deep soul questions about ourselves to ignite our own blood flow, to ignite our own homeostasis. It's time to start leveling out, It's time to start feeling into those sticky stuck places and start moving them. And if that looks like going to hot yoga when it is going to be like 100 degrees outside, go do it, because it is how we face that thing that we don't like that helps us understand it, that helps us release the block that it has against us. So that's the week. The moon cycles this week are going to move through. We just got done with a new moon in Gemini, which I love. So now the moon's moved into Cancer, which is a little nod, a little hint as to where the energy is guiding us this week. Don't forget that we are in Mercury retrograde's shadow right now, because Mercury is also in Cancer. So there's some Cancerian energy coming our way. And what it means to be in Mercury retrograde's shadow means that when Mercury actually does go retrograde at the end of this month, that retrograde is going to go through where we currently are in Cancer right now. So basically, it's like hint. The energy that's happening right now for us is giving us a hint as to what is going to get stopped up during Mercury retrograde. So is your car making funny noises? Is your body giving you a little bit of a time? Are your cats acting weird? Are your friends acting weird? Are your lovers acting strange? Well, it is a time to be like, okay, that's going to swing itself back around at the end of June. So I'd better put a little love into it, which it's a great week to do that. And I better put a little focus into it. So now today the moon's in Cancer, so we might be feeling a little more sensitive. We might just be feeling a little more on the emotional wavelength of our body. That's Monday to Wednesday. Wednesday to Friday, it moves into Leo, which is that nod to Venus at the beginning of the week. Oh, how I love astrology, how it's always speaking to itself. We're weaving stories within stories, and the story is very complex, and so we take it week by week, my friends. So this Wednesday through Friday, Leo energy is a time to emotionally stand out for yourself, to emotionally take a center stage and say, this is what I'm needing. And then give it to yourself, damn it. And then Friday through Sunday, we have Virgo. So the weekend is a very fastidious time. We've got solstice coming up. We've got plenty to do. We can ritualize, but Virgo loves a good list. So just make sure this weekend you're feeling a little more organized. You're feeling a little more like there are things that I can do that help me and support me. There are things that I can do that help me and support me, whether that's writing them down, whether that's feeling them through, or whether that's just sitting with your thoughts and organizing them before you get your day started. That's the end of the week. And then the very last day, Sunday in the evening, it moves into Libra. So we have this really fundamentally cool week to do a lot of stuff. Is it going to always be pleasant? No. But if we tackle it if we get in it, if we really dig in, then we're gonna get really good information to work with the next week when we're going into that Mercury retrograde vibes, when we're going into a lot of other astrology. Venus is setting the stage for us this week to be able to have more capacity to handle what's on the horizon. And I love it. The card that I pulled is Chop Wood. How do we master our thoughts? We chop wood. It is that very Karate Kid wax on, wax off, that life isn't always about doing the big things. The big life-changing moments are actually pretty few and far in between. But if we are righteously aware within our chop wood moments of our lives, we prepare ourselves in equal parts for those really big moments. But if a really big moment is on the horizon for you and you've got stopped up blood flow, is not going to flow the way you want it to flow. So flow this week. And the way you flow is by chopping wood, is by doing the thing mindfully, is by being aware, is by using this last week of curiosity to grow you. So that when some of the other bigger things start happening, you recognize them and you say, aha, I chopped wood for you. There is this big tiding. I have prepared dinner for this group of people. There is a big festival coming. I have made the appropriate clothes by hand. That's very archaic, but still, I'll say it, because when we prepare for our lives, that is when we are manifesting. It is in the preparation for the things that we want that we recognize when the things that we want are at our doorstep. And you don't recognize them if you haven't done the wood chopping. You don't recognize them if you haven't prepared yourself for the beautiful thing that you want. So go forth in Venus and say what you don't like, and then imbibe what you do like, and let there be some flow to this week. We do that by getting honest, being vulnerable, having an emotional body that is wiser than it was last week. And more importantly, getting a little organized at the end of the week. Because if you want big things, well, you'd better make room for them. You'd better throw open the windows, clean some counters, fold some clothes, and allow good tidings to come because you're ready for them. Not because they just knocked on your door all loud. Freaking open the door. Don't make it so hard. Thank you so much. My call to action is always that if this podcast inspires you, that you just copy and send it to one friend of yours, one person who you think also would be inspired, because that is how community grows. And I don't want just any community. I want you, and I want your friends, and I want those people that truly grow from right where they're standing. That's what we want. And if we're doing it all together, then boy, are we creating the things we want faster. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week.